You're at the stage where you understand why you're not sleeping. You understand how insomnia works, and you also know that sleep cannot be controlled. But still, you're not sleeping. In fact, sometimes you sleep and sometimes you feel calm, and then other times you do not sleep at all and you have so much anxiety and so much stress. This is a very normal and expected part of recovery. In fact, it is stage 2 of insomnia recovery, and I like to call it the backwards and forwards stage. If you are new here, my name is Fiona. I'm a recovered chronic insomniac turned holistic sleep coach. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down what this stage is, and if you actually find yourself in this stage, what you can actually do about it in order to keep continuing on this journey to holistic insomnia recovery. So how can it be that we are in this situation to begin with? In the backwards and forward stage, which follows the panic stage, which is stage 1, panic meaning that at the very beginning, you are lost, you are confused, you have never struggled with sleep, and now you are furiously looking for answers, looking for solutions, you are trying all the things, and nothing works. Somehow, in this search for answers, you start educating yourself on the cycle of insomnia. You start understanding that you don't need to chase sleep because you can't. Sleep is a completely passive process. And you also start understanding that you are in fact in the cycle of a perceived threat. Your nervous system's actually trying to protect you by keeping you awake to try and protect you from wakefulness, which is the thing that we're trying to avoid. So when you start understanding all these things, logically, we start internalizing this as a bit of a release and a grip on the situation. This means that our logic, the prefrontal cortex of our brain, the part of our brain that understands reason, we start understanding how insomnia works. And this can feel deeply comforting in a way. In a way, this already allows us to release a little bit of the grip on sleep. However, insomnia is not a logic problem, which is why we are in stage 2. Hear me out. And by logic, I mean that you can't outthink your way out of insomnia. You need to experience safety. You can't just tell yourself that you're safe, which is why we end up being in this backwards and forwards stage. We start understanding that wakefulness doesn't need to be feared, but we're not really sure if that's correct because we still feel it as something to fear and something very threatening. We understand that sleep can't be controlled, but our tendencies are still to want to control it. And this is where the dialogue between logic and survival comes in. When we start understanding insomnia, it happens through logic. We start understanding and seeing the problem from, an outsider's perspective, how it is and how it is perpetuated. However, our nervous system doesn't learn through logic. Let me use a parallel example. Another perceived threat could be the fear of dogs. If you were ever bitten by a dog when you were younger, your nervous system has automatically internalized that dogs are evil and dogs need to be avoided. I could logically tell you that is not true. And you can logically understand that is true. Not all dogs are harmful. But as soon as you see a dog, you still feel stressed and you still feel anxious. And that is because that is not a logic problem. It is a survival instinct and it is a fear problem. In order for your nervous system to actually learn that dogs are not all bad, it needs to be exposed to dogs over and over and over again in order for it to truly learn and internalize it. It is no different with sleep and insomnia. We have the perceived threat of wakefulness. We have identified that wakefulness is something we need to avoid. That means that logically we can think, okay, that's true. Nothing really bad is going to happen if I don't sleep. But your nervous system still doesn't know it. I guess the difference between this situation and the situation with a dog is that you can't avoid sleep every single night. So the task now in stage 2 is how do we actually teach ourselves? We logically know that wakefulness may not be something to fear But how do we actually teach ourselves and embody that in order to allow our body to naturally let go and allow us to sleep? So what do you actually do in this stage? And I want to encourage you to think of this stage as you are reclaiming the dialogue and reclaiming your life. Insomnia has taken so much and you're going to take it all back. That means that you're no longer chasing sleep. Maybe you remove sleep efforts, whether those are avoidant or active, meaning that you know that you no longer need to avoid coffee or alcohol or seeing friends at night. You know that you don't need these elaborate bedtime routines. I used to always ask myself when I wanted to do certain things in order for sleep to happen. I started asking myself, would I be doing this if sleep were not a problem? And that's the question that you need to ask yourself in this situation. Would I be doing this if sleep were not a problem? So that's kind of what you're going to start with, is you're going to start reclaiming your narrative, your life. You're going to keep doing the things that you want to do because you want to do them and not because you are afraid of sleep. At night, you're also going to stop chasing sleep. My number one piece of advice is always, please do not look at the clock at night. The more you look at the clock, the more you're monitoring your sleep and you're putting unrealistic expectations on what sleep needs to look like. Don't look at the clock. Don't chase sleep. Remove any kind of elaborate routines or rituals that you need to have. And in fact, I'm going to encourage you to, instead of trying to sleep, try and enjoy wakefulness. I know it's going to be difficult, but you need to stop focusing on sleep and start focusing on the things that are inside of your control. And that means that you're controlling how you use your time. This element of befriending wakefulness is simply a move of, oh no, I can't sleep, to, oh well, what am I going to do with my time? That's all it is. I used to think to myself, okay, I don't want to have all this extra time, but I have it anyway. What am I going to do with that time? And the more you experience wakefulness without purposefully trying to avoid it, trust me, it will happen less often. And that is because your body and your nervous system will start letting go of the fear. You will first start experiencing that the fear isn't as strong anymore. You're not as anxious. And then eventually, as you start reducing that fear and that anxiety, you will start to sleep. So to wrap it up, if you're in this stage of understanding insomnia, but still struggling, focus on befriending. I know sometimes it feels like we need clarity before we take action, but I'm encouraging you to think about it in the opposite way. Clarity comes through action. We can take action in order to gain clarity. And if you are unsure as to what insomnia even is to begin with, or even how to start breaking the cycle of insomnia, that I've also linked my 5 days to better sleep email series below, so you can go ahead and check that out, or go ahead and drop any comments, questions, or concerns in the comment section, and I promise to get back to you.